Jordan Peterson presses Richard Dawkins on his "I'm a cultural Christian" language.
We are culturally a Christian country. I call myself a cultural Christian.
With a moderated debate by Alex O'Connor. This is chef's kiss. Everything I would ever want in a conversation. Jordan Peterson having to be clear on where he is with his own faith.
Hello.
Richard Dawkins was kind of nasty when it comes to religious people, even when his own friend Ayaan Hirsi Ali said, Christianity made me not depressed and freed me of anxiety, and I have so much purpose now. And he basically tells her, oh, that's all make-believe. Could you imagine someone saying, this fairy tale make-believe thing, and it makes me a better person? You go, yeah, it's fairy tale nonsense, you're an idiot, right? So I like that he just holds no punches. I respect it. Right? I don't like this new generation of atheists that are too nice.
They're like, well, great point there.
Yeah.
But
No, I want you to tell me how much you hate me.
Yeah, I want you to tell me how much you hate God.
How silly am I? Right? I want that energy. So Richard Dawkins got that vintage atheist energy. This is really interesting. I watched a few minutes of it, so I'm going in semi-blind, but we're going to be looking at more and more of this in detail. Let's jump into it. This specifically is from the 27-minute mark. This is Jordan Peterson pressing him about his cultural Christian claims. Okay, let's jump into it.
Of North America to the nearest hair's breadth. Now, that's impressive. That's
no doubt.
The mystery there, as it were, gains its credentials by its predictions. The mysteries of the Bible don't have any credentials at all, as far as I can make out.
Well, I guess the credentials that I would put, you made a statement a couple of months ago.
The setup is Richard Dawkins is saying all the Bible credentials, they're all fairy tales and nonsense.
Yep.
Jordan Peterson flips it on him and goes, yeah, fairy tale nonsense, but you called yourself a cultural Christian. What the heck do you mean by that?
Yeah.
Right? So it's a good pushback, right? Now,
The setting is fire.
the setting's fire. Where is this like, where are they?
They're
Is
like
that
in the
Arizona
desert
or something?
Yeah, something.
I found very interesting. And I don't claim to understand it, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot with it.
Put him on the spot.
You said that you were a cultural Christian. Okay, and so that raised a number of questions in my mind. And the first question was...
You are changing the subject.
No, I'm not. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I may be leaping outside of the topic a bit to
We
get
can
back to
do
it.
cultural Christianity, but I think I have a list of questions that you wanted to ask, and that is one of them. But I think Professor Dawkins did ask
you.
You.
were referring to the predictive power and to the utility of the stories.
Yeah,
Okay, so that's actually...
Hey, shout out to Jordan Peterson for just completely railroading over whatever Alex O'Connor was trying to say. Alex, I love you. If you've ever watched my channel, I think you're great.
Yeah.
But he just railroaded through that dude.
He really did.
He might as well should have just shushed him off. He might as well should have hit him with one of these. The Michael Knowles.
Can I get your tissue?
Yeah, thank you.
Crying. He waves in the guy. Oh,
yeah,
man.
he almost shushed him off the way he just railed right past whatever he was trying to say.
Jordan Peterson's like, look, the moderator is purely just a look. Okay?
It's symbolic.
It's symbolic. It's to make you feel comfortable. But I'm talking. Okay, this is my channel.
Go ahead.
what I was trying to
Okay,
say.
fine.
On.
Go ahead.
Okay, so that was the point. Well, it seemed to me that your proclamation that you were a cultural Christian was a recognition and a statement that you had found something in the culture that had been derived from Christianity
Yes.
that you had an affinity with. And
Hello.
there's some reason for that. And one of the things I wanted to ask you is, well, what do you think that Christianity got right that allows you to make a statement like that? I mean, I know that there's differences perhaps in what we both think about the ultimate veracity of the biblical stories. Maybe there isn't differences. Like, it would take a lot of conversation to figure this out. But what did you mean by that? Like, what do you think that Christianity got right that would enable you to make...
Nothing hits better than hearing a "what do you mean by" from Jordan Peterson.
Yeah. This is in Arizona. That's why. So the Petersons have a place in Arizona now. They're in Arizona. That's why there's the desert behind them. That would be my guess.
Sick. Okay.
That's not Europe.
Yeah, definitely not Europe.
Yeah, it's not
You're
Europe.
not getting metal T-Rexes outside.
Yeah.
Virtually nothing.
We gotta
This
run it
is
back.
such a disingenuous answer by Richard
we gotta
Dawkins.
run it back because that was awful.
This is such a disingenuous answer. He's just cat. This is just
Virtually
no.
nothing.
Virtually nothing.
Come on,
the
dog.
society you've been able to build an entire livelihood, the fact that you even get the freedom to say the foolishness you say is built on the back of Christianity, which ushered in the Enlightenment movement and the Renaissance and all that, right?
Hello.
And a lot of people don't know the history in this stuff. And that's why I'm excited to bring to you guys our first ever Bless God Summit happening March 27th, 28th, 29th in Southern California. The Beat's very own Alan Parr and Jen Parr, my guy John McCrae from the What Do You Mean YouTube channel, Preston Perry, Dr. Sean McDowell, Live Actions, Lila Rose, Trizzle Fitness, my pastor Jeff and his wife Erin Moores, as well as live performances from America's Got Talent winner Dustin Savella, Ryan Horton leading worship. The goal of this conference is so that we can be the solution to all this craziness as we're coming out of a very tumultuous 2024. And I'm excited to announce that we really want to get as many of you there as we can. So we developed a couple of things. One, we now have a full scholarship opportunity. For those of you guys that are like, Ruslan, I want to be there, man, but the way my bank account is set up right now, I just can't cut it, bro. Okay, great. We have a scholarship available where you can fill out a scholarship, and we have opportunities for those of y'all that got it and got the funds and you want to sponsor someone. We have opportunities to sponsor someone, and right inside of the ticket sales section, and an opportunity to buy a pay it forward ticket, as well as group discounts. If you want to bring a bunch of your friends, or if you're a pastor and you want to bring your whole staff, those are available as well. And there's now even payment plans. So you could put a little bit down now, and I think I'll take it out every month or so. Go to blessgodsummit.com now to get your tickets, to apply for a scholarship, to sponsor someone going that needs to be there. And I can't wait to see you guys, hang out with you guys in person, March 27th, 28th, 29th, here in beautiful North County, San Diego, Carlsbad, California.
It's like it would take a lot of conversation to figure this out. But what did you mean by that? Like, what do you think that Christianity got right that would enable you to make a statement like that?
Virtually nothing. I meant by that no more than that I brought up in a Christian culture. I went to Christian schools. I therefore know my way around the Bible. I know my way around the Book of Common Prayer. I know the hymns. That's all. I don't value Christianity as a truth system at all.
Okay, so let me ask you about that, because maybe that's true and perhaps it's not. So the first question is, like,
he's like, you're lying, and I'm gonna have a follow-up for that.
Hold his feet to the fire.
Yeah, because I also feel like the context of that clip was because he was mad that they were taking down the churches and replacing them with mosques.
Mm-hmm.
He specifically said I think he was saying he misses the beautiful architecture and goodness that comes with the cathedrals and that comes with Christmas carols and all of the such. Not just I know hymns and I know the Bible, like he grew up in a youth group.
Yeah.
It's like that's not what you were saying.
Yeah, like I know the menu at In-N-Out.
Yeah.
I don't. That doesn't mean anything.
Exactly.
That has no emotional significance to me.
Exactly. But
they give me hot chocolate on rainy days. They give my kids hot chocolate. on rainy days.
Yeah, exactly. But his original thing was like kind of giving an apologetic for why the Christian culture actually was a net positive.
Yeah. Well, watch what Jordan Peterson does here.
Are there any marked differences between cultural traditions that would enable you to rank order them in terms of their ethical validity?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so for example, we could contrast mainstream UK Christianity with Islamic fundamentalism.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a hierarchy.
There is a hierarchy.
A hierarchy that points to what?
Well, in the case of Islam, I dislike any religion which punishes apostasy with death, that throws people off high buildings, that practices clitoridectomy. That's.
I believe I think they deserve to be thrown off short buildings.
Seems to me to place Islam on a lower level than Christianity, but that's not to say anything very positive about Christianity.
Well, it might be to say something positive about Christianity.
Hello.
Like, I think that question is open, because you might ask yourself, what did Christianity get right that led it away from those particular presumptions and towards something that you regard as more ethically appropriate? Like,
He's making him think. He's like, okay, you can't say
Yes.
that there is a hierarchy.
Yes.
And that Islam is lower on that hierarchy
Yes.
because of their morals.
Yes.
And then also say that Christianity got nothing right. Because you're presupposing that Christianity got something right. And he's like, let me help you think.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, I mean, it's interesting that sometimes the smartest people don't always have the pushback to make them think critically about their own position.
Because they sound smart and they're a little bit intimidating.
Yes. 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 Because no one wants to push it back. And so Jordan Peterson had this quote, he posted it on his community tab, where he said, always assume the person sitting across from you may know something you don't.
Hello.
And I was like, that's good.
That's good. That's good.
Go ahead.
this isn't a trivial question.
It's a very modest claim. There's not very much. I mean, to be better than a religion that throws people off high buildings is not really a very virtuous achievement. So,
I don't know.
I think it is.
Yeah. I think he's being cheeky here too.
He is, but it's like he's like it's not a virtuous achievement. But it's like you wouldn't hold that same logic to anything else. You wouldn't if you're a proponent for free healthcare. They're not saying just because you provide free healthcare and the United States doesn't provide free healthcare doesn't make you better.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, well, a lot of people value free healthcare, so in that argument, I guess it would under your circumstance,
Within your paradigm.
within your paradigm. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if that's true, because if you look at the barbarism that characterizes the human past, you might think that any progression whatsoever towards something approximating mercy and tolerance is nothing short of a bloody miracle.
Well,
Like, people are pretty ruthless, and so are our chimpanzee cousins.
Yes, they are.
Right. So we move forward into the light with great difficulty. And
Pause it. All of civilization is dark. All of civilization has been doing terrible things to each other. Oftentimes to the tribe across the way, destroying people, conquering, killing. This idea that we've ever evolved to this like utopian peace land.
We were good before religion.
No, we weren't. We've
It's like,
never
what are
been
you-
good.
What are you talking about?
Yeah. So his like chimpanzee line is a gem. Like he's killing it here.
the fact that we can take that for granted now, and that it seems self-evident and deserving of faint praise, it's not so clear to me that that's a reasonable proposition.
Okay, let's grant the faint praise, but that has nothing to do with the truth value. And what I care about is the truth value. I see no truth value in the claims of Christianity, the virgin birth, the resurrection, the miracles. Do you believe in any of those?
Now I got to give Richard Dawkins credit.
There we go.
Why the atheist brothers always be getting the questions that we want from Jordan Peterson? Alex O'Connor got him to finally relent on the resurrection. I suppose so, right? Jesus, I suppose so, right? And so now Richard Dawkins is flipping it and saying, "Do you believe in the virgin birth? Do you believe in the resurrection?" Right? That's kind of fire.
Do you know the like the scenario that evangelicals have always curated since, maybe the 90s, Columbine? A comes to you and he puts a gun to your head and says, "Are you a follower of Jesus?" I just like to imagine that Jordan Peterson's response is, I suppose so.
I suppose so.
This was born a virgin.
As I said before, there are elements of the text that I don't feel qualified to comment on. My experience has been that the more, I know from a
Pause it.
Politicking.
Hey, that was a great way to weasel your way out of that answer. Jordan Peterson, if you're watching this, Dr. Peterson, you know how much I love you. That was, what was Trump talking about with Schultz? I be weaving.
Is he really?
Yeah, he said,
metaphorical perspective.
you gotta weave. I be weaving.
That's great. Wow.
From a mythic perspective, what the story of the virgin birth means. And I accept that. I know, for example, that any culture that doesn't hold the image of the woman and infant sacred dies. And I don't know how that needs to be expressed in a
Is
form.
it true that
So he says
He went the Pajot route.
He went the Pajot route. He's saying, back to his maps of meaning typography, he's saying, listen, I don't know if I'm equipped to speak on technically if it's true.
Yeah.
However, I think the implications of it are true. The impact and the meaning of the doctrine of the virgin birth is true.
Yeah.
So then you get into like, what do you mean by true? Richard Dawkins is technically asking him, do you believe that Jesus was born of a virgin?
Yeah.
As in Mary was a virgin, as in, we all know what a virgin is. Those are the questions.
No penetration.
Those are the questions that Christians want Jordan Peterson to answer.
Yeah.
Right? And because he's asking him about fact claims. But the issue with Christianity is these are faith claims. We have faith that the Virgin Mary was a virgin. We have faith that Jesus was born of a virgin. We have faith that he bodily rose from the dead. And in that faith, I have a degree of certainty as I live out the faith, right? But it's hard to answer these questions for Jordan Peterson because I think he categorically puts them not in the question of fact claims, but faith claims.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very true. And I also think there is validity in saying, like, I'm not equipped to answer this question. Like, I do think...
I think a fair question would have been, I have faith that she was. I have faith that the resurrection is true.
Yeah.
Do you mean that you don't know?
Well, let me ask you about that, because truth, this is something I talked with Sam Harris about too. Truth, as we know, is a tricky business. Do you think there are differences in the truth claims between different writers of fiction? Like, is Dostoevsky more profound than...
well, I wouldn't call fiction truth claims anyway. I mean, he's a...
So
Then on what-
pause it. That went way over his head. Do you understand the question?
I kind of missed it. I was reading the chat.
Are there fiction works that are more sophisticated and have deeper truth claims?
Ooh,
Because a
yeah.
myth
Tolkien.
may be a made-up story,
Yeah.
but the truth claims hit you in a way that you go, whoa, this lights me up because there's truth in the story, in the application of the story, without it being so on the nose and preachy at you.
Yeah.
Right? And so when he's saying truth claims, he's saying, yeah, the story can be fictional, but there's truth in that, and there's hierarchy and sophistication in different writers of fiction.
Yeah.
Right? And that went over Dawkins' head, because again, he's not thinking of typography and maps of meaning and all this stuff that these guys are on.
Is in the truth claims between different writers of fiction. Like, is Dostoevsky more profound than...
No, well, I wouldn't call fiction truth claims anyway. I mean, these are...
Then on what grounds do we rank order the fiction in terms of quality? Like, Dostoevsky is a profound purveyor of fiction on the philosophical front, unbelievably deep and profound.
Yes,
There's something true about what he's writing about.
It's nothing to do with the truth that science is concerned with. The truth of science is the truth that gets us to the moon. I mean, this is nothing to do with whether one writer of fiction has a sort of insight into human nature. That goes without saying. I accept that.
Here's the beautiful part. Richard Dawkins is approaching faith as if it's a calculation of getting to the moon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%.
That is... Why are we allowing atheists to hold us to scientific standards like the calculations to the moon to filter and explain faith claims and historical claims? It's a different barometer. It's a different metric.
Yeah.
We're not looking at faith claims and historical faith claims and historical truth claims through the lens of the calculations of getting us to the moon. They're categorically different. And I think this is the fallacy that many atheists make. They're just asking the wrong questions. You're asking it in a way that you think it's about calculations and math. 2 + 2 = 4.
Yeah.
That's a categorically different question.
Hello.
Does the historical narrative, the historical literature, the historical resources that we have make the claims of the resurrection likely to have happened? And if they're likely to have happened, then I could say, historically speaking, I believe that that's a fact. I can't prove it to you,
Yeah.
but I believe that that's true.
Yeah.
Not it's a fact as in 1 + 1 = 2, or the calculations of the sun from the moon or the moon from the earth,
There's
or whatever.
enough evidence to believe that thing happened.
Exactly.
Historically.
Purely factual side, how do we deal with the idea? Let's take you talked about clitoridectomy. Let's talk about the oppression of women.
Yes.
We make a scientific case that that's inappropriate? Or is it a case that we're making on some other grounds? Like I see in the
That's a gem.
Judeo-Christian tradition, one of the earliest pronouncements is that both men and women carry the image of God, both. And that sets a certain tone to everything that follows. And it is a remarkable proclamation given its radical age, that both men and women carry the image of God and are to be treated as something with intrinsic value outside of the domain of power and politics. And it isn't obvious to me, having thought about this a lot, how we deal with that in the pure realm of fact. Because one of the facts is, if I can oppress you, why the hell shouldn't I?
Yeah, my job is to keep things on track here. I think there are a number of questions which Professor Dawkins has asked quite directly that we still haven't really heard an answer for.
Okay.
Professor Dawkins asking about the virgin birth. You started talking about metaphor, you started talking about myth. I think anybody listening to this conversation will understand that maybe a society that doesn't believe in the virgin birth won't work. Maybe that's the predictive power that you're talking about. But I think you must understand that when Professor Dawkins is asking you, do you believe that Jesus was born of a virgin? He means something like a biological fact. And by the way, saying I don't know, or saying, I'm not qualified to comment, is an answer to that question. But is that your answer, that you don't know?
I said earlier, and I would hold to this, is that there are elements of the text that I don't know that I'm incapable of fully accounting for. I can't account for what the fundamental reality and significance of the notion of the resurrection is. My knowledge just ends.
Sure, but
I know that whatever happened as a consequence of the origination and the promotion of the Christian story was powerful enough to bring Rome to its knees and demolish the pagan enterprise. So there.
It's a good answer.
Yeah.
But he's also saying, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right? So is he sidestepping? Is he dancing? Is he tap dancing? Or is he just being honest?
Yeah.
There's some power in that story that's remarkable.
Let's stick to the virgin birth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the virgin birth results from a mistranslation of Isaiah. You know that.
Like these sorts of questions, what would you say? They don't strike me as, they're not getting to the point.
I know
The
that. I
story
know
has
the
a
thing.
purpose.
Yes.
Well, and look, I understand that there's perfect reasons to debate this. I know that, and I know that your question is more than valid. But it's beside the issue as far as I'm concerned, and it's partly because, well, when we started this conversation, I said, for example, that it appears to be the case.
What'd you say?
That
Said he's cheeky. He's smiling. Like.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, he's smiling because he's like it avoids the, or like he's like it defeats the purpose of the question.
A description of the structure through which we see the world is a story. We see the world through a story. And so that's a remarkable thing. That's a remarkable discovery, and it's emerged probably in the last 16 years.
What I love about this language, the story, is we see the world through a story. He's basically saying your worldview. The worldview that you see, the lens that you see the world through is a story. What story are you believing? Jordan Peterson is almost like, when I heard him speak in person, it's worldview apologetics. He's saying that the Christian lens, the Christian story, the Christian worldview is the superior and best way to make sense of the universe. That's his position. He doesn't like the technicality of these questions. I don't quite understand why, because if it's the best conclusion, it makes the most sense of reality. I don't have a problem with saying, yes, I think Jesus was born of a virgin.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain that. I don't know how you make sense of that from biology. It is a miracle, but that's what I believe. That's what I hold to. That's what I hold faith in, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if what the next follow-up question from Richard Dawkins is with that, or if that's his gotcha. Like if his idea is that is so ridiculous that if I can get Jordan Peterson to admit he believes in a virgin birth, that all the intellectuals won't take Jordan Peterson seriously, which I think he neglects the idea that there's a lot of intellectuals that can actually see the value in it. But that's kind of why I want Jordan Peterson to answer it, how you're describing it, because I want to see what his follow-up would be.
Yeah. So what if he does answer it in We Who Wrestle with God, which is coming out next month? What if there is an answer and maybe he's holding back? Maybe he doesn't want to answer it yet. Maybe he doesn't want to show his hands. That's just a hypothesis. I don't know. You know?
Are you going to read the book?
Think about it.
I'm going to read it.
You are going to read it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we have to prioritize our facts. And so we prioritize them according to a particular pattern. And there are patterns that seem to work and to propagate themselves properly and to orient cultures towards life abundant. And there are other patterns, the pattern of Cain, for example, that lead to absolute bloody devastation. And I don't know exactly how to construe that sort of truth. But we talked about the oppression of women, for example. It's like, how do you make a case on purely factual grounds that women should be treated as equals?
Brilliant. Brilliant. He didn't give him an answer on the virgin birth.
And then threw him another question.
And then went back to what he knew, the moral argument he knew for Richard Dawkins is the strongest argument. You can't factually make an argument for why women deserve rights. You can't make that argument biologically.
And so then he would circle back of like, the reason that you can't make a factual argument for why women deserve rights is the reason that the virgin birth is important.
Something like that. Something of that sort.
Regardless of whether you can understand the biological side of it.
Sure.
Interesting. Which is kind of just pushing the whole conversation into gray area, which is okay for faith, but it's not okay for atheists and facts and evidence.
Yes.
Moral question. And
I know, that's exactly.
And I was dealing with a factual question, which is, did Jesus have a father? And you won't answer it.
Well,
It's a
Jesus
different
had
kind
an
of
earthly
question.
father and a heavenly father, like almost all mythological heroes.
So he wasn't born of a virgin then? So you're saying that Jesus was not born of a virgin?
I said, first of all, that I don't know how to mediate the fact-value dichotomy in that case. I said the same thing about the resurrection.
It's not a value. It's a simple fact. I mean, did a man have intercourse with Mary and produce Jesus? That's a factual question.
That's a no. You got this.
Come
It's
on,
not a
Jordan.
value question.
Come on, Dr.
Come
Peterson.
on.
You must understand what you're being asked here. That
All he has to
even
do,
if you
pause. All he has to do is just hit him with the,
Sure.
I suppose so.
Yeah.
That's it.
The most unsure yes you can give. Just
I
be like,
suppose so.
so.
All right, come on, Jordan. Come on.
think that, say, the author of the biblical texts intended much more significance than a simple scientific analysis of events. Professor Dawkins is interested in scientific truth. That's the kind of truth that he's interested in. And even if you think it's irrelevant to the point of what the gospel authors were getting at, that first needs to be clarified before you can then begin actually uncovering what the stories are about. So I think Professor Dawkins is asking from a scientific perspective. And maybe you think that scientific approach...
I gotta say, Alex O'Connor, extremely articulate, extremely smart, and I will be shaking my boots sitting, even if I was on the same intellectual level as these guys, sitting with dudes that are like double my age, triple my age, and like holding them to the fire. Like, ooh, good for him.
Well, he has probably genius level IQ.
Yeah.
Like, all props to Alex O'Connor. He's really smart.
He's
really smart.
What is age anyways? I mean, we're just sitting here and you might be an older man, but just because you're gray doesn't mean you're smarter than me.
wrong.
I just went Matt Fradd.
But if you just take it for a moment, maybe this is how we find out that it is wrong. Let's take a scientific approach. Ask the question, did this occur?
I think that it's inappropriate to use a question like that to attempt to undermine the validity of the entire what would you say, deep mythological enterprise.
Well, suppose we weren't doing that. Suppose we were asking out of interest. Suppose that we were all here devout Christians, maybe even Jungian Christians, and we thought, this is interesting, over dinner. Do you think it really happened, like scientifically? Would your answer just be, I don't know?
Yes.
And you wouldn't consider it, I mean, it's not an inappropriate question to ask, just
Oh, man.
on a point of interest.
Right.
Did this really occur? And I think so often people are asking you that, and especially given the context of this conversation, we've heard everything that you're saying about metaphor and myth, but because the question is still then being asked, did it really happen? You know that that's what you're being asked. And the way you just so easily said yes, I wonder why you struggle to do that in so many other circumstances.
I think because I don't look at the situation the same. The way that Dr. Dawkins and I look at the situation are really quite different, and at many, many, many levels. So even on the meme question, for example, like I know the literature on the history of religious ideas. I see how these ideas have battled across millennia in a manner that is very reminiscent to me of the same sort of claim that Dr. Dawkins is putting forward with regards to meme. I know that literature. Dr. Dawkins doesn't know that literature. And it's very difficult for me to communicate from within the confines of that literature because it's extensive and deep. And we're dealing with things that we don't understand the relationship between metaphoric truth and value-predicated truth and factual truth. We don't understand that. It's a big problem. There's no evidence whatsoever from the scientific perspective that we can orient ourselves in the world merely in consequence of the facts.
Sure.
And that's a fact. And it's a fact that's
Oh, that's good.
This is great. This is good. This is a good conversation. Keep going.
This is like a pay-per-view. They could have paid for this.
I would have paid to watch this.
detailed out in great detail in the last 60 years by people from a variety of different disciplines. We have to prioritize the facts. That's a value hierarchy. There may be true and false ways of prioritizing facts.
I love Jordan Peterson. You think he prepared for this?
I don't think he prepares.
I don't think he prepares.
I don't think it's a thing he does.
I think if he would have sat and prepared for this, he could have torched Richard Dawkins without giving him the red meat that he wanted to get, that he was trying to get out of him.
Do you think Richard Dawkins prepared for it?
No.
Okay.
No. I don't think either of these guys prepared for it.
Yeah.
But like,
imagine if he had
remember Jonathan Peugeot's conversation with, oh gosh, I forgot his name. Super cool guy though. We've been talking a little bit about potentially him coming on, the atheist dude. And the way he answered that question of like, you are asking for rationality in an area that is categorically different, and you don't require the same rationality in 95% of your life. Like that's the answer. You don't require rationality for love. You don't require. So he's getting to women's rights. Why are women equal? That's the slither of it.
Yeah.
But that's where he really could have pointed down. Like it's a categorically wrong place to put this, and you don't demand this degree of evidence and scientific calculation in any other area of your life. Oof. Stop it. That would have been the answer.
Yeah.
In my opinion, my humble opinion. What do I know though? I'm just a guy on YouTube.
But you can't determine the truth or falsehood of the way that you prioritize facts
Yes.
by making reference to the facts. That's a big problem.
Okay, let's talk about that as perhaps a slight detour here, because I think we do need to come back to this Christ resurrection thing. But Professor Dawkins, would you say that underlying the scientific enterprise is a fundamentally unscientific assumption? You can make scientific.
Look at Jordan Peterson. You see, yes,
He's like,
yes.
finally. This is what I paid a moderator for.
That's great.
Enterprise is a fundamentally unscientific assumption. You can make scientific investigations in the world, but in order to do so, you need to choose what to prioritize. You need to choose what to investigate. You also need to value the truth. You need to have a value and a motivation for doing it in the first place. Those kinds of things cannot themselves be scientifically justified. And so does the scientific enterprise have an unscientific assumption of space?
I suppose it does. I mean, I think that maybe just be Jordan and Richard, by the way. I think that Jordan prioritizes myth. I think myth is kind of vaguely interesting, but it's not the be-all and end-all of my life. I think it's somewhat secondary to scientific facts, the sort of facts that tell us how old the universe is, how old the world is, the history of life, the engineering achievements of landing a spacecraft on a comet. These are the things that science can do. And as I said, the predictions of quantum theory, to come back to that, the predictions of quantum theory, which are verified to a sufficient number of decimal places that it's equivalent to predicting the width of North America to 1 hair's breadth. Now, that is, however difficult quantum theory is to understand.
I just happen to find this conversation rather uninteresting. Pull out that classic Jordan Peterson.
This is what you can get from quantum theory. Now, the mysteries of the Bible, if they are mysteries, aren't in the same league. I mean, they just don't cut it.
One of the things that I've tried to study is the preconditions for the scientific enterprise itself. You appeared to agree with Alex that there might be presumptions, axioms that need to be accepted. I don't want to put words in your mouth because I want to get this right before the scientific enterprise can begin. So I've tried to think those through. So let me lay out a couple of them this is partly what I've done while trying to make the case, for example, that you're more of a Christian than you think you are. So, for example, I think that the scientific enterprise is motivated by the axiomatic presumption that truth tends towards a unity. I think that it's predicated on the notion that there is a logical order that's intrinsic to the cosmos, that fundamental order is good, that it's intelligible to human beings, and that discovering that order and aligning ourselves with it makes for life more abundant. I think that the scientific enterprise is also predicated on the idea that the truth will set you free. And I think all of those axioms are religious and derived from the Judeo-Christian tradition.
Come on, man.
This man's like, you're a Christian, you don't even know it, and I'm going to prove it to you.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if I'd go as far as here more Christian and then, you know.
Look, he's just he's being hyperbolic. He's making a point.
Sure.
He's making a point. He's saying we don't give Christianity the due respect that it deserves.
For sure. For sure.
And it's cool to just have a Jordan Peterson doing that.
Yeah. Go ahead. Let's see if this answers, and we'll end here.
And if you don't believe that, you have to account for why science emerged in Europe and nowhere else in the entire history of humanity, for example, and why it's under assault from like all quarters now as that underlying metaphysic disappears. Like you haven't had to be concerned with the mythological substrate in your lifetime in some sense because it was intact.
Yeah.
And so the universities could flourish and you had your freedom, remarkable freedom to pursue your scientific enterprise wherever you wanted, and people lauded you for it. Like that time is threatened, and seriously so.
What is he saying here?
He's saying that you are taking for granted the society in which everything's been built upon, and the more we've drifted away from a religious order, the less you're going to be able to practice your science.
So the
times are changing, and you don't even see the signs of the times.
And underhandedly pointing to the idea of even like the difference between biological women and biological men, and being like, you value this science so much.
You got canceled for that.
But it comes. Dawkins got canceled.
Yes.
For that? But it comes on the backbone of a Christian worldview, giving you the freedom to explore these things.
Absolutely. He's making a presuppositional historical argument.
I think it's partly because these metaphysical assumptions have now become questionable, and that's part of the reason that I'm attending to them. It's not because I don't admire the accuracy of quantum prediction, for example, or celebrate what Musk is doing with his capability of sending rockets to Mars. It's like more power to the technological enterprise. But you know what's happening in the universities? It's awful. And that's not a scientific problem. It's okay.
I agree about that.
Okay.
I think it's an interesting question why science emerged in Europe. I mean, and I'm not enough of a historian to know. It is even possible that Christianity did have something to do with that, and I wouldn't categorically deny that.
I mean, that's kind of the whole point, right?
Yeah.
That was literally Jordan Peterson's the whole point, and he finally concedes to a Jordan Peterson point. Christianity, this is literally what we just said. Christianity gave you
the thing you love,
the thing that you love, that you can explore, that you can do. Like that is the fruit of the scientific method is the fruit of Christianity.
Christianity gave you the thing that you turned into God.
Dang. Go ahead.
But that doesn't in any way increase my trust in the validity of Christian propositions like the resurrection, the virgin birth, the miracles, and Jesus is the Son of God. Christianity may have had some kind of historical facilitating effect that led to the Renaissance, that led to the scientific revolution, and that would be a very interesting historical analysis. But it doesn't bear upon the truth of the propositions of the Christian religion.
Okay. So he wants the truth claims without the root. He wants the fruit without the root.
Hello.
He wants the benefit of Christianity society without. I don't know if the rest of this is true. I mean, that's a magic bullet.
And the best part too is that the scriptures predict this.
Mm-hmm.
You will know wisdom by her fruit.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And so, and the funny thing about that is that that's kind of like making a bet. Yeah. It's not really, but it's kind of like making a bet of being like, hey, I'm putting this thing out there, by the way, and you'll know by how this performs.
That's good.
And then thousands of years later, we're like, yeah, this is performed really good. And then the person that made the bet is like, kind of the point.
Yeah.
That was the bet.
That's good. That's a good take.
But you're trying to separate it like I didn't make that bet a long time ago as the whole point.
Let's concentrate on the resurrection for a moment. Now, unfortunately, see, this is part of the problem. Part of the problem with discussions like this is that the mode of approach that's taken by the mythological tends to circle and wander. Like it doesn't, because you have to shine light on the problem from multiple perspectives. That's why it's often encoded in image, for example, or in drama. It's not the same tack as a purely propositional and logical argument. So it's more difficult to make. But let me tell you a story that I believe bears on the resurrection. You tell me what you think about it, because this is a very difficult story to account for. It's going to take me about 5 minutes because it's complicated.
On tomorrow's episode.
So let me know what you think about this video. You think Dr. Jordan Peterson deflected too much? You think he had some good answers? But part 2 of this gets even crazier. And I think he backs Richard Dawkins into a corner that he can't get out of. We'll have this pinned up over here. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. All right? Peace.